A lot of paranormal stuff has happened to me in my lifetime, but this, by far, is the worst. Okay, here it goes. I was home alone, in the middle of the night, about 3 a.m. I was on my computer, and I heard some weird noises. I didn't think much about them, but then I started to hear more weird noises. So I took my headphones off and decided to listen. My room door was closed, and I placed my ear against the door, and I heard fast and loud footsteps coming towards my door. I jumped into my bed, and I was very scared. About 10 minutes later, I decided to investigate. I opened the door, and I searched the whole house. There was no one there. After sitting back on my computer for a little while, again I started to hear loud knocking on the front door, and someone was trying to open the door to get in. I was scared because no one was supposed to come home at this time. So I turned the lights on that were in the front of my house. I looked through the window, but there was no one there. At this point, I started freaking out, and I decided to go to my room, lock my door, and make sure the curtains were down, and I listened to loud music. Nothing else happened that night, but I could not sleep. The next day, I called my mother, and I told her what happened to me that night. She laughed at me and said, "I'm crazy." To start this story off, I live in the countryside, and not much happens here. But here goes what happened to me. About a month ago, I went for a run in the woods. After about 20 minutes of running, I saw a red van driving near me. I kind of thought that's weird because I go running every day, and no one really drives there. So I ran into the woods, trying to lose him, so he can't see me. And somehow he followed me through some weird road. I ran and kept following me. I was scared. But at one point, I lost him for a second and I jumped into a bush so I could hide. The van stopped near where I was, and I had a peek. Two very mafia-looking tough guys jumped out and started talking about something. First time in my life, I was scared that I'm going to die. After like a minute, they drove off. I stayed in the bush for at least 20 minutes because I was so scared. But then I ran off to home as fast as I could. Later that day, my friend that lived nearby called me and asked if I heard the gunshots. I didn't. He said that he also went running after the gunshots and found a guy in full army clothing looking with binoculars. He asked him if he was hunting or what, and the guy said he was just doing some photos. The weird thing is, he did not have a camera. So the next day, I went running, and I found empty bullet shells, but no body of an animal, or nothing nearby, not even blood. I don't run in these woods anymore, because all of this has made me very paranoid. When I was about 9 or 10, I had a row of porcelain dolls on top of a bookshelf in my room. There must have been about 10 to 12 dolls, but one stood out from all of them. My grandma had bought me the doll, but she never told me where it came from, and she still won't. It had curly hair. It was in a fairy costume, and of course, it played music. You had to wind it up to make the music play, and it would play a tune from Swan Lake or something. It would occasionally play music in the middle of the night, and I, as a child, took no notice of the music, and thought it probably still had juice in it from winding it up earlier. That was until I started playing more frequently, and I started having reoccurring bad dreams about the doll, where it would be watching me, and when I woke up, its beady eyes were staring at me. This is where it started to get really freaky. Once my cousin was staying over one night, and she kept muttering, the eyes," in her sleep. The music started playing, and I glanced up at the doll, who again looked to be staring at us. But the music was playing slower than usual. Now, believe me or not, I don't care, but this is the truth. My cousin started gasping for air, thrashing about violently. I tried to scream, but no noise escaped my mouth. The doll's music seemed to be the only noise playing, slowly and loudly, until it stopped completely. My cousin then sat up, shaking and trying to catch her breath. "Help me," she muttered. I touched her and tried to reassure her by telling her about the doll. She just stared at the bookshelf. I got up, opened up my window, my hands trembling. I threw the doll out, causing her foot to break off. My cousin now refuses to ever come in my room, and the doll is in a plastic bag, tied tightly with the others. I never told anyone about the doll.